I never liked our basement. It wasn't the kind of cozy, finished space you see in home renovation shows with soft lighting and comfy furniture. No, ours was the stereotypical basement you only saw in creepy movies. A low ceiling with exposed pipes, a single naked light bulb hanging from a cord, concrete floors stained from years of leaks, and the smell of something between mildew and dust that never went away no matter how many air fresheners Mom put down there. As a kid, I used to run past the basement door every time I went to the laundry room because, for some reason, that door always felt like it was watching me. Mom told me it was just my imagination, but she never spent much time down there either. The basement was basically storage for holiday decorations, old furniture, and boxes of junk from before I was even born. The only reason I went down there that day was because Mom asked me to bring up a box of old photo albums so she could scan them. I was 17, a junior in high school, and I had better things to do like finish my history paper or scroll through TikTok. But when Mom asked for something important, there was no point arguing. She wasn't the kind of mom you could brush off. So I grabbed a hoodie, took a deep breath, and headed down the creaky stairs into the basement. The air down there was colder than usual, like it had been holding its breath. I flipped on the light bulb and it swayed slightly, casting weird shadows on the walls. I found the box of photo albums pretty quickly. It was sitting right on top of a stack labeled Christmas in black marker. But as I bent down to grab it, something else caught my eye. In the far corner, behind a dusty shelving unit, there was a small stack of VHS tapes. Most of them had those generic white labels with titles written in fading pen. Thanksgiving, 94, Easter at Grandma's, school play. But one stood out. It didn't have a label at all. It was just a plain black cassette, slightly warped on one corner, like it had been dropped. And it had this strange sticky residue on the side, as if someone had ripped off a piece of tape or a sticker. For some reason, my stomach dropped when I saw it. I wasn't even born in the VHS era. By the time I was a kid, everything was already DVDs and digital, but I knew enough from old home videos at friends' houses to recognize that this one felt wrong. Heavier. Colder, maybe. I don't know how to explain it except that something about it made me curious in a way I didn't like. I grabbed it, wiped off the dust with my sleeve, and just stared at it for a minute. I thought maybe it was just another random family video, but if it was, why hide it behind the shelves? Why no label? Why did it look so secret? That's when I remembered. Our old VHS player was still upstairs in the den. Mom had kept it for nostalgia and because she wasn't ready to part with the old tapes. I figured maybe this mystery tape had some funny baby footage of me or an embarrassing moment from Mom's college years. But deep down, there was this little knot of unease growing in my chest. I stuck the photo album box under one arm, the VHS in the other, and went upstairs. Mom was in the kitchen making tea when I came up. She didn't even notice the tape at first. Got them, I said, setting the albums on the counter. Thanks, honey, she said without looking up. Just put them by the scanner. I hesitated, holding the VHS in my hand like it might burn me. Hey, what's this one? I asked. Her eyes flicked up, and in that split second, her face changed. She went pale, like blood-drained pale, and her hand froze halfway to the teapot. Where did you get that? She asked, her voice suddenly sharp. In the basement, I said, confused. It was behind the shelves. What is it? Nothing, she said too quickly. Just an old tape. Probably broken. Throw it away. That reaction told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't nothing. And whatever was on it, she didn't want me to see. Which, of course, made me want to see it even more. I pretended to shrug. Okay, I said, dropping it on the counter like I didn't care. She went back to her tea, but her eyes kept darting to the tape like it was a ticking bomb. As soon as she turned her back, I slipped it into my hoodie pocket. That night, after she went to bed, I crept into the den. The VHS player sat under the TV, dusty but still plugged in. My hands were shaking a little as I slid the tape into the slot and pressed play. At first, it was just static. Then the image flickered to life. The date in the corner read August 14th, 2007. I was 2 years old. The camera was shaky, like whoever was holding it was nervous. The first thing I saw was our living room, but it looked different. The furniture was rearranged, and the walls were painted a darker color. Then a man's voice spoke, a voice I hadn't heard in over a decade, but that still felt weirdly familiar. "Okay, I think it's recording," he said. His voice cracked on the last word. It was my dad. The dad who disappeared when I was 2. The dad Mom never talked about. The dad I only knew from a couple of faded photographs. He stepped into the frame, wearing a wrinkled button-down shirt, looking tired and jittery. His eyes darted toward the camera and then back to the floor, like he couldn't quite face it. "If anyone ever sees this," he said slowly, "it means I didn't make it out." My heart stopped. He took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. "Something's happening, and I don't know how much time I have before." Suddenly, there was a loud crash off-screen, and his head snapped toward the sound. "I have to go," he said quickly. "But if this ever reaches you, you need to know, it wasn't my choice. None of it was my choice." The screen went black. I sat there frozen, my hands gripping the armrest so hard they hurt. My dad's face, his voice, his fear, it was all burned into my mind. I wanted to rewind, to hear more, but the tape didn't rewind. It just stopped. And that's when I heard footsteps in the hallway. They were slow, heavy, coming closer. The footsteps were deliberate. Each one thudded against the hallway floor like a drumbeat, slow and steady, growing louder with every second. My whole body froze in the chair. My first thought was Mom. She must have heard the VHS player whirring. She must have known exactly what I'd found. The light from the TV flickered across the room, throwing long shadows on the walls. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I reached forward and slammed the eject button, but the tape didn't come out right away. It made a grinding sound like it was stuck, and for a split second, I thought I was about to be caught, literally, with it in my hands. The footsteps reached the door. I yanked the tape out just as the doorknob turned. I shoved it under a stack of old magazines on the side table and tried to look casual, like a teenager staying up too late watching nothing important. The door creaked open, and Mom's face appeared in the crack. Her eyes scanned the room, then landed on the VHS player. Even in the dim light, I saw her jaw tighten. "What are you doing up?" she asked. Her voice wasn't angry exactly, but there was a sharp edge under it, like she was barely holding something back. "Couldn't sleep," I lied, leaning back in the chair. "Just watching old movies." Her gaze lingered on the stack of magazines, right over where I'd hidden the tape. For a terrifying second, I thought she was going to reach for them. But instead, she took a slow breath and said, "It's late. Go to bed." I nodded, pretending to be bored and tired, even though adrenaline was buzzing in every vein. She stood there for a few more seconds, then closed the door. The moment she was gone, I sat completely still, listening. Her footsteps retreated down the hall, softer this time, and then I heard her bedroom door click shut. I didn't move for a solid minute, just in case she was still lingering outside. When I finally felt safe enough, I grabbed the tape and slipped it into the pocket of my hoodie. I knew I couldn't leave it in the house. She'd find it, and I had this gut feeling she'd destroy it before I could see more. But the problem was, the tape was damaged. It hadn't played all the way through. I needed to find a way to fix it, or at least see if there was more footage. That night, I slept with the tape under my pillow, which was both stupid and uncomfortable, but it made me feel like I had some kind of control. The next morning, Mom was acting strange. She didn't say much during breakfast, just kept glancing at me like she was trying to read my mind. Every time our eyes met, she'd look away. When I grabbed my bag to head to school, she asked, "What are your plans after class?" Her tone was casual, but I could tell she was fishing. "I've got a group project," I lied again. "Might be home late." She nodded but didn't smile. "All right, be careful." The way she said it sent a chill through me. At school, I couldn't focus on anything. While my friends were gossiping about who hooked up at the football game last weekend, I was replaying my dad's face in my mind, the way his voice cracked when he said it wasn't my choice. What did that mean? And what happened right after the crash off screen? By lunch, I'd made up my mind. I needed help. There was one person I could trust with this. My best friend, Noah. We'd been friends since middle school, and if there was one thing he was good at, it was fixing old tech. His garage was basically a graveyard for broken electronics he'd somehow brought back to life. I met him by the lockers and told him I had something to show him. But you can't tell anyone, I said. Dude, you're acting like you found buried treasure, he joked. Better, I said. Or worse. I'm not sure yet. After school, we headed to his place. His parents weren't home, so we went straight to the garage. The smell of motor oil and soldering fumes hit me as I pulled the VHS from my hoodie pocket. Whoa, Noah said. Old school. What's on it? I hesitated. My dad. His eyebrows shot up. Didn't you say he? Yeah. He disappeared when I was 2. Mom never talks about it. But last night, I found this in the basement. It's weird, Noah. He said if I was watching it, it meant he didn't make it out. Then the tape cut off. Noah turned it over in his hands. Might just be damaged. We could try cleaning it, maybe transferring it to digital. You get a better idea of what's left. I exhaled, relieved. Can you do it? He grinned. You're talking to the king of lost media. Give me a couple hours. While he worked, I paced around the garage, trying to convince myself this wasn't a big deal. Maybe Dad had been in some kind of accident. Maybe the crash was just a noise from outside, and he was being dramatic. But my gut kept telling me there was more. The fear in his voice, it wasn't just about himself. It felt like he was warning me. By the time Noah called me over, my stomach was in knots. Okay, he said. I got it to play a little further. This sounds glitchy, but you'll get the idea. He hit play. The screen flickered, and there was my dad again. He was in the same spot, but his shirt was torn at the collar now, and there was a streak of dirt, or maybe blood, across his cheek. His breathing was heavier. If this gets to you, he said, looking straight into the camera this time, you need to be careful who you trust. Especially. The sound warped into static, cutting off the next word. They'll tell you I left because I wanted to. That's a lie. I didn't run away. I was taken. I felt my chest tighten. The screen went black again, but this time, before it cut completely, I saw a shadow pass behind him, tall, broad-shouldered, moving quickly toward the camera. Then nothing. I just stood there, staring at the frozen black screen, my hands trembling. Noah looked at me. Dude, what the hell? I swallowed hard. I don't know. But I think Mom knows exactly what happened. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about finding out where my dad went. It was about figuring out why my mom had been hiding the truth for 15 years. When I got home that night, the air in the house felt different. Heavy. Like the walls themselves were holding a secret. Mom was in the living room, sitting in her usual chair with a mug of tea, but she wasn't watching TV. She was just staring at nothing. Her eyes were fixed on the wall, but her fingers kept tapping against the mug in a nervous rhythm. The moment she saw me, she straightened up. You're late, she said. I shrugged, forcing my voice to sound casual. Group project ran long. She tilted her head slightly, studying me like she was trying to see inside my skull. What's in your bag? My heart skipped. Just my laptop and some notes. Why? Because, she said slowly, I went to your room earlier and noticed the VHS you took from the basement isn't there anymore. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. What? I tried to play dumb, but her eyes narrowed. I'm not stupid, Alex, she said, her voice low. I told you to throw it away. You didn't. Where is it? I tried to keep my face blank, but my pulse was racing. Why does it matter? It's just a tape. She set her mug down with a sharp clink. That tape is dangerous. If you've watched it. Dangerous? I cut in. It's a video of Dad. You know, the guy you refused to talk about for 15 years. And you're telling me I shouldn't want to see it? Her mouth tightened into a thin line. For a second, I thought she might actually tell me something. But instead, she stood up. You don't understand. Some things are better left buried. No, I said, stepping forward, my voice shaking now. Some things are buried because someone doesn't want the truth to come out. He said he didn't leave by choice. He said he was taken. Her face went pale, but she quickly masked it. You misheard. I didn't mishear, I snapped. And I think you know exactly what happened to him. Who took him? Why haven't you told me? For a long moment, she just stared at me, her eyes dark. Then she said something I didn't expect at all. If you keep digging, Alex, you're going to get hurt. The words hit me like ice water. She wasn't even pretending it was harmless anymore. She was warning me. My mom, the woman who had always told me to stand up for what's right, was telling me to stop asking questions. I wanted to push harder, but her tone made something in me hesitate. I could tell she wasn't bluffing. She genuinely believed I was in danger. We stood there in silence for a few seconds before she turned away. Dinner's in the fridge, she said quietly. I'm going to bed. And just like that, the conversation was over. But it wasn't over for me. Not even close. That night, I texted Noah. We need to figure out what's going on. I think my mom's hiding more than just a tape. He replied instantly. Then we digged deeper. Basement again? I hesitated. The basement had always felt like the center of this whole mystery, and now that I'd watched part of the tape, it was like it had claws in me. Yeah, I texted back. Tomorrow after school. The next day felt endless. I sat through math class without hearing a single word, my mind replaying my dad's warning over and over. Every bell that rang felt like it was dragging me closer to something I couldn't undo. By the time school let out, the sky was already gray, and the wind had that restless, pre-storm feeling. Noah biked over to my house, and we slipped inside quietly. Mom wouldn't be home from work for another couple of hours. We went straight to the basement. The air down there felt even colder than before, and the light bulb flickered like it was struggling to stay on. Noah started pulling boxes off the shelves, looking for anything unusual. Most of it was just junk, old yearbooks, broken lamps, a stack of newspapers yellowed with age. But then he froze. Alex, he said. You need to see this. I walked over, and he pointed to a locked metal filing cabinet tucked against the back wall. It was old, scratched, and had a dent in the side like someone had tried to pry it open before. Think there's a key? Noah asked. I shook my head. If there is, Mom's not keeping it down here. Noah grinned. Good thing I don't need one. He pulled a small lock-picking kit from his backpack. I stared at him. What? Don't judge, he said. Comes in handy. It took him less than a minute to pop the lock. The door creaked open, and inside were rows of folders, each one labeled with a date. The earliest was 2005. The most recent was 2007, the year my dad disappeared. I pulled the 2007 folder out and flipped it open. Inside were printed emails, handwritten notes, and photographs. The first photo made my stomach twist. It was my dad, standing outside our house, looking over his shoulder like he knew someone was watching him. The next photo was worse. It was of my dad and some man I didn't recognize, sitting in a diner booth. My dad looked tense, his hands gripping a coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping him steady. The other man's face was half hidden, but something about him felt dangerous. What is this? Noah whispered. I shook my head, flipping through more pages. Then I froze. At the bottom of the stack was a document with the words missing person, case closed stamped across the top. Case closed. Except Dad wasn't found. The report said presumed voluntary disappearance, but my chest tightened reading it. Voluntary? No, that wasn't what I'd seen on the tape. That wasn't the voice of a man running away from his family. That was a man warning someone. And then I saw something that made my hands go cold. The officer's signature at the bottom of the report. It was the same last name as the man in the diner photo. Alex, Noah said suddenly, I think your mom just pulled into the driveway. My heart jumped into my throat. We shoved the folder back into the cabinet, slammed it shut, and scrambled upstairs. We barely made it to the kitchen before the front door opened. Mom stepped inside, her eyes sweeping over the room. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask why Noah was here. She just looked at me and said, We need to talk. Now, her tone wasn't angry this time, it was serious. Dead serious. Mom didn't sit down when she said, We need to talk. She stayed standing in the kitchen doorway, her coat still on, her purse hanging off her arm like she'd been too tense to set anything down. Her eyes were locked on me, but they kept flicking to Noah like she was debating whether or not to throw him out before speaking. I think Noah should stay, I said quickly, my voice steady even though my stomach was in knots. He already knows. Her jaw tightened. Knows what exactly? I glanced at Noah, then back at her. That Dad didn't just leave. That someone took him. And that you've been hiding it for 15 years. For a moment, I thought she was going to deny it again. But instead, she closed her eyes and exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. This isn't how I wanted you to find out, she said quietly. Find out what? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. That you've been lying to me my whole life? Her eyes snapped open, and there was something raw in them now, not anger, but guilt. I didn't lie to hurt you. I lied to protect you. Protect me from what? I demanded. She set her purse down on the counter, finally taking off her coat. Your father. He wasn't the man you think he was. He loved you, more than anything, but he was involved in things he shouldn't have been. Dangerous people. Dangerous money. I shook my head. That's not what I saw on the tape. He didn't look like someone who chose this. He looked scared. Her lips pressed together. Because he was. They were closing in on him. He made mistakes, Alex, mistakes that put all of us at risk. That night, the night he disappeared, I had to make a choice. Her voice caught, and for the first time, I saw tears gathering in her eyes. What choice? I asked, though part of me didn't want to hear the answer. I told him to run, she said. I told him it was the only way to keep you safe. But I didn't know. I didn't know they would catch him before he got out. My legs felt unsteady, like the floor was tilting beneath me. Who are they? I asked. She hesitated, glancing at Noah as if his presence made her weigh her words more carefully. Men your father owed money to. The kind of men who don't forgive, and who don't forget. He thought he could pay them back with interest from some investment scheme. But it fell apart. They wanted their money, and they wanted a message sent. My chest was tight. So, they took him? And you just let everyone believe he left us? Her voice hardened. If people thought he ran away, they'd stop asking questions. If they knew he'd been taken, you would have been next. That last sentence landed like a punch to the ribs. You're telling me I've been living my whole life thinking he abandoned me, when really he was. My throat closed up, and I couldn't even finish. Gone because he was trying to protect you, she said softly. Alex, if you start poking at this now, they'll know you're looking. And they'll remember you. Noah shifted beside me, clearly uncomfortable. Mrs. Carter. If they haven't done anything in 15 years, maybe. They have, she interrupted sharply. You just don't know about it. The letters, the phone calls, anonymous, threatening. Every time I thought they'd forgotten about us, something showed up in the mail. I've moved us twice. I've changed phone numbers. I've kept my head down for one reason. So they'd leave us alone. Her voice broke then, and she turned away, wiping her eyes. I couldn't lose you too. For a long moment, None of us spoke. The weight of what she just said hung in the air like smoke. Finally, I asked, "What about the tape? Why did Dad make it?" Her eyes softened, but there was fear there too. "Because he wanted you to know the truth in case he didn't make it." I told him it was too dangerous to leave anything behind, but your father was stubborn. He must have hidden it before they found him. "And you hid it again," I said flatly. "Yes," she admitted. "Because if you saw it before you were old enough to understand, you'd go looking for him. And looking for him is the fastest way to join him." I wanted to be angry. I wanted to yell at her for keeping all this from me. But the thing was, I could see the fear in her eyes, the way her hands trembled as she spoke. This wasn't some cold, calculated cover-up. This was a mother terrified for her child. Still, something didn't add up. If you were so afraid, why keep the tape at all? Why not destroy it? Her gaze dropped. Because part of me couldn't let go. If there was even the smallest chance you could hear his voice one more time, I wanted to keep that for you. Even if you could never see it until it was safe. The silence after that felt heavy. I didn't know if I believed her completely. There was something in the way she said until it was safe, like she knew something about Dad's situation that she wasn't telling me yet. Then Noah broke the quiet. "Mrs. Carter, if there are people still watching you after all this time, maybe Alex isn't the only one in danger now. We found some stuff in the basement, old case files. There was a cop involved who had the same name as." "Stop." Mom's voice was sharp, urgent. Her head whipped toward him. "You went through the cabinet?" My stomach dropped. "You don't understand," she said, her voice trembling now. "That man, the one in the diner with your father, he wasn't just a cop. He was the connection between your father's debts and the people who took him. And if you found his name, you're already on a list you don't want to be on." Noah and I exchanged a glance. She wasn't speaking in hypotheticals. This was real. Immediate. Mom grabbed her purse again, moving quickly now. "You both need to go somewhere safe for the night. I'll handle this." "What do you mean handle this is?" I asked, my voice rising. "What are you going to do?" She didn't answer. She was already pulling her keys from her pocket. That's when I realized, whatever she was about to do, it wasn't going to be legal, and it wasn't going to be safe. Noah stepped in. "Mrs. Carter, maybe we should call the police." "No police," she snapped. "Not unless you want the same badge that closed your father's case showing up at our door." And with that, she left the house. The door slammed behind her, leaving me and Noah standing in the kitchen, both of us stunned. I turned to him. "We can't just sit here. She's not telling us everything. There's more to the story." "Yeah," he said slowly, "and I think I know how to find it." Noah's plan was simple. If my mom wasn't going to tell us the whole truth, we'd find it ourselves. We waited until it was dark, then grabbed our bikes and headed for the public library. It wasn't exactly the epicenter of dangerous investigations, but it had one thing we needed: the newspaper archives. The online ones were incomplete, and older issues weren't digitized. If anything happened in 2007 around the time my dad disappeared, we'd find it there. The library was almost empty when we walked in. We went straight to the microfilm machine in the back corner. The hum of the scanner filled the air as we loaded reel after reel, searching through headlines, crime reports, and obituaries. Then we found it. August 15, 2007, the day after my dad's tape was recorded. The headline read, "Local man missing after late night incident." The article said witnesses reported seeing a heated argument outside a diner between my dad and an unidentified man, followed by both of them getting into a black SUV. The SUV was never found. One line made my blood run cold. Authorities believe the missing man may have left willingly to avoid outstanding financial obligations. The exact same phrasing from the case closed report in Mom's filing cabinet. "They made it official," Noah said. "They made it look like he ran." I kept scrolling. And then, a week later, another article appeared, about the same SUV being pulled from a lake 2 towns over. Inside, there was a partial skeleton. Identification pending, it said. No follow-up article ever confirmed it was my dad, but I knew. I just knew. We left the library just before closing, the wind biting at our faces as we biked home. When we got there, Mom's car wasn't in the driveway. My chest tightened. She should have been back by now. Inside, the house felt wrong. Too quiet. Then I saw it, an envelope on the kitchen table with my name written on it in her handwriting. Hands shaking, I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Alex, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't stop them from finding me. I thought I had more time, but they've been closer than I realized. I need you to understand that everything I did, hiding the truth, keeping that tape from you, was because I wanted you to live. I made a deal with them 15 years ago. They'd leave you alone if I never tried to find your father or speak about him again. I broke that deal tonight. The man in the diner was Detective Harris. He was supposed to protect your father, but instead, he delivered him to the men who took him. Harris has been watching us all these years. He knows you've been asking questions. If I can, I'll come back. But if I don't follow me. Burn the tape. Forget about me. Live. Love. Mom. I read it twice before I realized my hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the paper. Noah's face was pale. She went after him, didn't she? Harris. I nodded. She's going to do something she doesn't want me to see. We had 2 choices. Obey her letter, or do the exact opposite. And of course, I chose the second. We pulled up every online record we could find about Detective Harris, news mentions, old cases, anything. Most of it was dry public record, but one address kept showing up on old property filings, a cabin by the lake. The same lake where they found the SUV. It was almost midnight when we got there. The place was lit by a single porch light, the rest of the property swallowed in darkness. We hid our bikes in the trees and crept closer. Through the grimy front window, I saw 2 figures. One was Harris, older now, heavier, but unmistakable. The other was my mom. Her hands were tied behind her back, her mouth set in a defiant line. My chest squeezed so tight it hurt. I couldn't hear them clearly, but Harris was talking, leaning in close, his voice low and smug. My mom didn't flinch. She looked calm, like she'd made peace with whatever was about to happen. Then I saw it. Harris reached into his jacket, pulling out something metallic. Noah grabbed my arm. We need to call someone. There's no time, I said. I don't remember making the decision to move. 1 second, I was crouched by the window. The next, I was slamming the door open so hard it hit the wall. Harris spun around, startled, his hand tightening on the gun. Let her go, I shouted. His eyes widened in recognition. Well, if it isn't the kid who couldn't leave the past alone. I stepped forward, heart hammering. You took my dad. You made everyone think he ran. Why? Harris smirked, like he was enjoying this. Your dad owed the wrong people a lot of money. I gave him a way out. He didn't take it. So I delivered him to people who would make sure he never caused trouble again. And now, he raised the gun. You're about to cause trouble too. Before I could react, my mom lunged sideways, knocking his arm up. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the small room. Noah burst through the door behind me, swinging a heavy flashlight down on Harris's head. He crumpled to the floor, unconscious. The next few minutes were a blur. We cut Mom's hands free and ran out the door, into the trees, onto our bikes. We didn't stop pedaling until we were back in our driveway. Inside, Mom collapsed into a chair, breathing hard. For a long time, none of us spoke. Finally, she looked at me. I told you not to follow me. And I told you, I said quietly, I'm done living without answers. Her eyes softened then, and for the first time, I saw the truth in them. They didn't just kill your father. They made sure I lived with the guilt of telling him to run that night. I thought if I could carry that alone, you'd be free from it. My throat tightened. He didn't hate me, did he? She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. No. He loved you more than his own life. That's why he didn't fight them when they took him. He thought they'd leave you alone. And that was the part that broke me, knowing my dad's last choice wasn't to save himself, but to save me. We never saw Harris again. Whether he was arrested or disappeared the way my dad had, I don't know. Mom never told me. Some nights, I think she's protecting me from that too. The VHS tape? I still have it. I never burned it. I can't. It's the only thing I have where my dad speaks directly to me. And sometimes, late at night, I watch it again just to hear his voice. Just to remember that my life, as messy and dangerous as it became, started with a man who loved me enough to give up everything. And that's something I'll never let be buried again.